What is up, everyone? It's me, Jrod, the filmmaker, former film major, frequent fighting gamer from Philadelphia, and this week I will be counting down my top 10 episodes of Static Shock. Static Shock was always one of my favorite shows growing up, and it was overdue for a rewatch. I started rewatching Static Shock when DC Universe had it on their catalog, but I didn't pay for DC Universe, so when that free trial ran out, I ran out, unfortunately. But they did put the entire DCAU catalog that was on DC Universe has now been moved to HBO Max, so I could continue my rewatch of Static Shock. And I did, and I also rewatched Batman Beyond, Harley Quinn, and Young Justice Outsiders. But like I said, this video is about the top 10 episodes of Static Shock, so without further ado, let's get into the list. My number 10 episode of Static Shock is Attack of the Living Brain Puppets. From season 2, this is where Virgil's classmate Madeline gets her super meta powers to control minds around the same time that they have their class presidential election. This episode was basically as close as a children's show could get to a zombie apocalypse, and it caused Virgil to have to make it past smooth-brained versions of all of his friends and classmates in order to stop Madeline. But that wasn't her final appearance. She would come back later in the series. My number 9 pick is No Man's an Island. This episode stood out to me on my rewatch. I mean, the plot is really simple. Basically, Static is kidnapped by some unknown force, and he's handcuffed to his biggest rival, Hot Streak. And because they're handcuffed together, the two are forced to work together in order to try to get off this island. But also, they have to work together to free the other metahumans that are imprisoned there, some of their friends. Number 8 on my list is The New Kid. In this episode, Virgil and Daisy go to a brand new school, a school for gifted students, and the school is decked out with some of the best state-of-the-art technology. It is funded by Alva Industries and the shady billionaire Alva who runs that, and it's basically just a front for some very supervillain level schemes and the introduction to the characters Mr. Trapper and Specs, who, you know, they're interesting characters, but they do make more appearances throughout the series. The thing that stood out about this episode was it was a really bold decision to completely change Virgil's school just for one episode. But hey, it worked out. It gave it a nice, fresh, new setting for that episode. Number 7 on my list is Power Play. This is the episode where Richie gets superpowers. But not those powers. Before Richie gets his own metahuman powers later in the episode Gear, he meets this old hermit who has the metahuman abilities to give people metahuman abilities. And this leads to this showdown between Virgil and Richie has his own John Walker style moment. But this was a pretty good episode. Number 6 on the list is A League of Their Own. Now this is a 2-part episode, but I will count it as one entry. In this episode, or these episodes, Static and Gear team up with the Justice League and they take on Brainiac. I mean, come on. It's already sick. In the first episode, they made it seem like Brainiac, the 12th level intellectual, was taken out by some heavy internet traffic. You know, a couple MP3s basically DDoSed him. They downloaded LiveWire on his system and he could not handle those viruses. But you get to see in the second part that this was all a scheme.
Yeah, they had us the first half, I'm not gonna lie.
And Brainiac actually comes back and uses Richie as a brain puppet once again. But Static has to work together to stop Brainiac and free the entire Justice League. Number 5, we are already in our top 5, guys, but number 5 on the list is Flashback. In this episode, Static teams up with a time-traveling metahuman to go back to the day where his mom died and to try to prevent it. Now, I am so over the idea that a superhero has to have this trauma in order to be the hero that he is, and if you take away the trauma, they're no longer the same hero. I'm completely over that idea. But this episode gave us so much more because it gave us, you know, that last chance for Virgil to see and talk to his mother, as well as for his mother to see the hero that he will one day become. So for that reason, it was a really sweet episode. Number 4 on the list is another crossover episodes, but actually almost all of this list are comprised of crossover episodes. In this episode, Jon Stewart's Green Lantern comes to Dakota to rob banks. It's actually Sinestro who stole Jon's lantern and his identity, and he is trying to sully his good name. And it's up to Static to give Jon Stewart a charge and to help him clear his good name. And yeah, be the hero that he is, the Green Lantern. Number 3 on the list is Future Shock. In this episode, Static and Gear think that they're in for another crossover with Batman and Robin, but actually Static gets transported to the future for a crossover with Batman Beyond, where he has to work with Terry in order to free his future self. This episode is a complete banger, just banger alert, and the chemistry between Batman Beyond and Static, it's so good that it rivals that of the dynamic duo between Batman and Robin. It even rivals the relationship between Batman and Superman. It's such a good episode. And so next up, number 2 on the list is Static in Africa. Now, for some odd reason, I actually never saw this episode on TV. I've never seen it televised, and I don't know why that is. But watching this as an adult, I am still impressed by the Static in Africa episode. The story was amazing, the characters were amazing, especially Anansi the Spider. And it was such a bold decision to take a mainstream cartoon like Static Shock and to give it an episode with an Afrocentric perspective. Not only just to set the episode in Africa, but to also give the characters, a sense of identity and some extended family in Africa, a sense of agency in Africa. It was really ahead of its time, as I can't think of any other show since that's done the same thing. And before I get into my top 1 episode, I got a few honorable mentions I would like to shout out. Gear, the Shebang episodes, and the Big Leagues, which was the first Batman and Static crossover where he took on the Joker. But now my number 1 episode of Static Shock is, drumroll please, it is Blast from the Past, the episode where Static teams up with a retired hero to take out his old nemesis. This episode was so memorable for me, even when I was a little kid, and it stood out to me again on the rewatch. And the chemistry between Static and Soul Power, oh, it's so good. It had that classic feel, and if we finally get the long-awaited crossover between Static and Black Lightning, I would want for it to feel exactly like this. And so that is gonna be it, guys. That was actually it. That was all 10 of my top 10 episodes of Static Shock, plus some honorable mentions. If you guys don't know, this is my second Static Shock video. I made a video honoring Dwayne Mcduffie and Static Shock a couple Black History Months ago. He was my Black History Month video in 2020. And so yeah, go check that out if you haven't seen it. It compares the plot of Static Shock to the plot of CW's The Flash, and you'll be surprised how similar the two are. Also, this is not going to be my last Static Shock video or Static video in any case, because we have a Static live action film that's in development to come soon, and we also have Static making his return to comics next month, and I'm going to be sure to check out his comic, and I might even do a video about it. So we shall see, guys. Just like, comment, subscribe, tell me how you feel about Static Shock. Was it your favorite show like it was mine? Tell me if I missed any episodes that are on your top 10, and tell me if you feel me. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
What are you doing?
What do you mean? Who said that? A guy outside?
Damn
Okay.
you,
Well, I think I'm here already, so. Okay, yeah, I'm here already. Whoa, let me in.